So let's bring on our panel now to look at connected car strategies in the big picture from the mouths of the OEMs. Our panel today, let's bring them on one at a time. We've got Uwe Higgen, who's the head of BMW Group's technology office for BMW USA. Phil Abram has the enviable title of CIO, that's Chief Infotainment Officer for General Motors. Nick Sugimoto is out of the Silicon Valley lab for Honda, where he is Senior Program Director. And as I mentioned, we have a great moderator today to lead our discussion. Please welcome Neal Boudette from Automotive News.
You know, I'm a little bit disappointed by that because I was told that we were going to do a kind of Colbert Report introduction of everybody, and we were all supposed to run out on stage with our arms raised. So I'm already disappointed, but I hope we can get back into it. Our panelists have been introduced. Thank you for coming back after lunch. Just to say one further word about me, and I think this will cement my credentials for moderating this. I am a serial texter and driver.
Boo.
Oh, like you never did. I try to use Siri as much as I can. I try to use voice recognition, but you know, when the kids are just texting you, when are you going to pick me up? You got to answer. So before we get started, I'd like to see a show of hands. Anybody else out there text and drive? Yeah, you're all telling the truth. Selfie while driving?
I've done that.
I have too. You got to check my Facebook page. The picture is of me driving, and I did take it myself. My mother doesn't appreciate it. But anyway, what we're going to try to do here on the panel is have an open discussion, a kind of meet the press panel here. And so let me quickly get started with some of the, I think, questions a lot of people have on their mind who follow connected car. We're mainly focusing on infotainment systems. And for me, the biggest question is, you know, a year ago at the Consumer Electronics Show, there was a lot of hype, CarPlay, Android Auto. Here we are, it's almost a year later. Not much is happening, we're not hearing much. What's going on with CarPlay and Android Auto? What's up with that?
You want to go first, Nick?
Sure. Well, we are working hard to trying to put it in a production vehicle. It's coming, definitely, soon.
Yeah, and you know, there's a car downstairs. I was actually introducing the Apple and the Google folks together this morning. That was quite interesting as they were standing downstairs. We showed a car at the Apple Worldwide Developers Conference, and the same car at Google I/O showing the integration. This is one where the technology is running at pace, and frankly, we've got to get some of our paperwork done as well with both parties, and make sure that we're all have a clear understanding.
What do you mean by paperwork?
What I mean by that is, in particular technologies such as CarPlay or Android Auto, you put the first one out there, and this is a new experience for automotive manufacturers, is right? You put the first one out there, and it does X, and we all feel really comfortable with what X is. All right, 6 months later, they can change the software on the phone, and now X becomes Y, and Y becomes Z, and on we go. And so because we care about distracted driving, and we don't want folks texting and driving and doing things like that, we got to make sure that we're all aligned on what the right experience is. And since that experience can evolve so quickly, we've got to figure it out and put down at least what we knew today as the rules of the road in this context. And we're working through that with both those parties to do that.
How much work are your companies doing to get these technologies into the car? And how much work is it a matter of what Apple and Google are doing? Are you essentially waiting for them to hand you a battle-tested version of their technology that you can put in the car, or is the work shared, or how much is shared?
I would say it's very much shared. I mean, I'm very involved in both technologies, and to bring it in a good way into our system. And you know, we have a very advanced infotainment system and a very thoroughly differentiating UI. And for us, it's very important that we get the most out of both worlds, and that those both worlds interact with each other in a premium way. So I'm meeting them every week, actually.
All right, so I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. These technologies will probably come out when you launch a new model, because then you'll have a new platform, new head unit and everything. Honda HR-V, will that be CarPlay ready? It's coming in the spring,
It
late
will be
spring?
announced tomorrow, so please wait for another day.
It will be announced tomorrow?
Why HRV will be.
And CarPlay?
CarPlay will be coming soon. We are working really hard.
What about the Tahoe? 2015 Tahoe?
2015 Tahoe, definitely not, because that vehicle's in the marketplace today. And we've said that we're going to be bringing it out next year, and that's where we are right now.
Okay. How about X4, X1? Two big vehicles, important vehicles over BMW.
BMW is maintaining a kind of platform strategy. So we developed the infotainment system like on a 2-3 years time frame, and we put it in all the vehicles. And you will not see it next year. So we are working on them.
You know, I want to go back to one point that you talked about how we're working together. I think a clear example is that if you look at the first demonstrations of Apple CarPlay and the user experience that was in that versus what they're showing downstairs, you can see the evolution. And that came from Apple working very closely with the OEM industry on what are the right set of experiences. How do you make, it's not phone projection. It's an in-car experience that is powered by a phone. And they've made a lot of strides in that, and the same thing with Google. If you look at their first iterations of the user experience to where they are right now, it's evolved so much because they're working closely with ourselves and everybody else. They're visiting our driver distraction labs and testing facilities, understanding what that's like, know how we evaluate what we put in a car. So I think the collaboration has really been quite wonderful, and the fruits of it has been seen. They're being responsive to the needs of the automotive industry, which we deeply appreciate.
One other topic that's closely related, where we've heard a lot of hype in the last year, is app stores, app shops. Nick, you have some news on that. Care to let everybody fill everybody in?
Yeah. Well, this morning Google released the Android Auto SDK for third-party developers and public developers, for them to build Android Auto apps for car use. We are also working closely with Google as a founding member of Automotive Alliance. And we just opened our Honda Developer Studio. It's a studio for app developers. We have some test vehicles and engineers standing by to help app developers to brush up their app to make it really usable and useful for in-car use case. We just announced that this morning.
This is another area where the progress seems to be slower than I think most people were expecting. Uwe, what's the holdup? I know BMW has had this idea that there would be some kind of app store. Certainly it was something BMW talked about at the Consumer Electronics Show last year. What's the holdup? Why hasn't this moved forward in 2014 the way it seemed to be poised to do so when we talked about it at CES last year?
I mean, the App Store itself stands for adding features to the car when you have the car already. And we have a platform already out in the field since 2010 in BMW and Mini, and more than 2.2 million cars are already equipped with this. And just yesterday we announced a Spotify integration based on this smartphone-based platform. And the other platform we have is Connected Drive Store, which is part of the Connected Drive offer. And this is being rolled out. It started in Germany, Belgium, and this is like a worldwide rollout. And it will be soon here in the US as well available.
2015?
Yes.
Phil, you've got had plans for the app shop that's been delayed. Give us an update on where GM is with the app shop concept.
Well, to answer the question about why it's taking so long, it's hard. You know, it's sometimes getting it right.
Oh, come on, it's so easy. I just go on to the App Store and download it to my phone, and it works.
There you go. And how many years before that it took them to refine that? And the car is not a smartphone, right? The car is it's an own unique environment. It's highly contextual. You don't get in your car just to sit there, right? It's to have a purpose, to go somewhere, even if it's for a joyride. And there are a lot of parameters around that, a lot of them on the distraction in front. And getting that experience right, getting the whole ecosystem right is something that is very new to the automotive industry. They haven't done that before. I say the ecosystem that the car manufacturers are used to dealing with was established in the 1880s. And that involves road and signs and gas stations like, and this new one is alien to them, and they're developing those expertise and those skills and how to execute it and deliver it with quality. And the good thing is we won't deliver it without the quality that we expect and that our customers would expect from us. So we're taking longer to refine that than we had expected it to.
One other issue that I'm interested in is this idea of your own proprietary in-car suite of applications, Honda Link, MyLink. Why are those necessary? If at some point I'm going to be able to have CarPlay to work with my iPhone, or somebody will have Android Auto to work with their Android phone, why do you need a Honda Link or a MyLink or a BMW iDrive suite in the car in addition to that?
Well, that's a way for a car company to connect with our customers directly, right? So Honda Link or other OEMs, whatever connected application, that's a way to really promote our business, not just selling a car, but also servicing a car and maybe offering more additional features on already sold cars. So car ownership is not just buying and selling a car. It's owning a car, using a car, the entire lifetime of the car. So yeah, that's very important for car companies' point of view. CarPlay, Android Auto, yeah, that's also another package of apps and also connectivity layers. Those are coming together as a package. So that kind of CarPlay, Android Auto, and Honda Link, they are not mutually exclusive. We continue to offer and provide connected car ownership like Honda Link, well, even on top of CarPlay or Android Auto, because that's a connectivity platform, right? So one of the challenges actually car companies have is, so far, is kind of fragmentation, right? No single car OEM owns, let's say, more than 15% of the global market. So from app developers' point of view, it's very fragmented market. Each OEM, some OEM already have API, some OEM don't.
So are you saying that for developers, there's some hesitation to jump into this because it is fragmented? Should I develop for Honda first? Should I develop for GM? Should I develop for BMW and what have you?
Yeah, that's what it was until Google and Apple stepped up and make a de facto standard of Android Auto and CarPlay.
So there's go ahead.
I mean, it's like for me or for BMW, CarPlay and AutoLink is kind of like the commodity of car integration. Like when you do, as an app developer, one integration, it will hit all cars that support the standard. We maintain our own proprietary platform because it's capable of doing more stuff. We have access to the vehicle data, and we can do more like Automotive or BMW specific applications with this platform. That's why we continue supporting this platform for differentiation with our platform, as well as the other platforms from the CE industry.
Yeah, it's about functionality. It's not, apps are not apps are not apps, right? And if you look at Apple and Android, they phone, messaging, media, and I'm cramping, navigation. Those 4 functions, they do very well. And so for applications or functionality like that, those are a great platform to deliver it. Like Nick was saying and Uwe was saying, as a car manufacturer, there are functionality, software-defined functionality that we want to deliver that are relevant to the car experience. We call it the carness of the car. things that, frankly, only we know about our cars and how to take those and turn those into values for our customers. And we need a platform upon which we can do that. And so that's why I consider, echoing what the sentiments here, is that they're complementary to each other. It's not some great battle or fist fight.
Maybe it's not a great battle, but there are risks and rewards here in that if...
It's all media-driven, Neal. It's all media-driven.
It is?
Yeah.
It is? Okay, so that would be my fault?
Yeah, pretty much.
But there is some risk here that Google or Apple ends up defining the personality of your product to some extent. For some users who choose, I'm just going to use CarPlay, and as they expand the functionality of CarPlay, they could take over more and more of that space. I mean, isn't that a fair statement to say that there's some risk here, that there is some tension between the automotive OEMs? Phil is smiling, so that I take that as a yes.
No, I'll go back to my previous statement. It's all a media-driven thing. No. It goes back to, once again, the functionality, right? And I firmly believe that we as a car company, and I'll say it this way, if we don't create experiences and capabilities that are relevant to our users that they want to use, then yes, we've ceded that to Apple or Google. But that's on us. That's a choice that we are making by, and I don't believe that will be the case, because there are things we are interested in that they aren't interested in terms of the in-car experience and what we need to do with that. People want their phone to work with their car, right? They don't care about all the rest of the stuff around that. It's that simple. If you start there. So we got to make that work for them. And then on top of that, we've got to continue to add value for them in ways that are meaningful to them. And I think we have a unique position, because the car is such a complicated piece of equipment, that Apple or Google aren't going to understand that, or the developers, to deliver that capability. We have to be able to do that. And so I think that's where the continued differentiation will come from.
Uwe, you want to add something?
I would just add, I mean, for us, it's not only about user experience, it's about design and the overall experience in the car. When you have the beautiful displays in the middle, your instrument cluster, your heads-up display, you want to have a seamless experience, and everything should look like from the same design perspective. Right? And if you like a platform that looks the same in every vehicle, so you lose this beauty a little bit. Right? That's why we are discussing so long how to make it integrated in a way that it's really seamless, follows the design language of a BMW. This is our main discussion point.
At this point, I'll throw it open. If anybody has any questions, step up to the microphones. We'll continue on with one or two more questions to the panel, and then we'll open it up to the floor to wrap up. Just to hold on a moment until we get a critical mass at the microphones. I'll go on with one more question, and then we'll go to the audience. One thing I would like to know, as an addicted texter and driver, why isn't text like phone? I mean, the cars today, making phone calls and receiving phone calls is a very seamless, sort of mindless event. You get in the car, the phone automatically connects, you don't need a cable, the phone rings, you hit the button, the stereo shuts off, it's all seamless. Why isn't it the same way with text? Why don't I get a little light on my screen that says I have a new text, and then hit a button that reads that text and has a pleasant voice that asks me if I'd like to respond?
Neal, have you used Siri Eyes Free?
Anybody out here like using Siri?
It does text.
Does anybody like
perfectly.
using Siri in the car?
Yeah, I do it all the time.
I do all the time.
I do too, except I would say 25% of the time I get, sorry, Siri can't help you right now, or whatever the message is, or I'm dictating a text and she cuts me off and says, would you like me to send it?
I mean, we would like to support it both parties have to support it. Right.
What do you mean both parties?
The use case itself to be able to access messages and to display them and to answer those things. I mean, there has to be on both sides. On phone side and a car side, the
On the
agreement
phone
to do
side
that.
and the car side.
Yes.
In other words, the phone side and the car side have to get together
Yes.
and sort all of this out.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I hope before my teenager starts driving that you all do, because I'm sure she's going to text and drive, because I've set a bad example. So let's go to the audience. First question here. Tell us your name and what's your question?
Lynn Walford with Auto Connected Car News. With the recent update to iOS 8, there have been various Bluetooth issues with in-car systems, including GM, BMW, and Honda. And I get comments that the car makers say it's Apple's fault, and Apple says it's the car maker's fault. So what's going on with this Bluetooth issue?
I would say we are analyzing and we are finding workarounds on both sides to resolve those issues.
Right, and one thing changed and the other thing didn't.
Well, I was going to add, my answer doesn't really matter, but I haven't updated to iOS 8, and mine works just fine. So
Mine either, so no problems.
But that raises a good point, actually. Mobile industry moves, really fast. Every 6 months, they introduce new phones, and maybe new operating system as well. So far, car was not designed that way to keep up with the speed of evolution of the handsets. So yes, our companies should respond in that sense to make the car more flexible and updatable for better user experience like that.
I'll take the next question from over here.
Thank you. John Wariak with SEMA, Specialty Equipment Aftermarket. I think it's great to have the automakers here, and certainly the cross-industry, before Apple, Android, et cetera, with the automotive OEMs. What about cross-market? How do you see the aftermarket playing a role with product development, clock speeds, the way they are at the OEs, and being able to jump right to the consumer, hit the pulse of the consumer with these technologies, and get that feedback?
I'm not sure.
Easier one?
Yeah, very general question.
I'm
Can you be more specific on what you mean?
What role do you see the aftermarket playing in accelerating the acceptance, consumer acceptance of these systems?
Which systems? Do you mean the CarPlay systems or what kind of systems?
The connectivity systems, the context of connectivity, the technology, the use.
In other words, I guess the aftermarket systems that you can buy that'll run CarPlay or Android Auto, do you see those having an impact on how much people actually, at the ramp up of those technologies?
I think the main benefit is we see as an integration part. And I think the aftermarket is good for when it's very new to add something to the customer. But what I see from the feedback from customers, they like the deep integration into the car without having cables, without having it full integrated, not having two knobs, having one knob, one logic. That's what they want.
That's going to be the challenge as we go forward. And I've said this to a number of people. I think I might have even said it here. The notion that if you think back, it used to be a radio, and the interface to the radio from the car was some speaker wires, some power, and an antenna cable. Switching that out, it's pretty easy, no problem. What Uwe was talking about, what we're trying to do is make the experience more seamless throughout all of the touch points in the car, in which case then pulling one piece out and putting another piece in becomes much more complicated and a much more challenging task to do it in a way that maintains that experience for the consumer. So I think, in terms of, as we go forward, it's going to get harder to have that seamless experience. For the existing car park, though, that's the opportunity for them to keep up with some of this technology as we put these platforms in place, and that still is a huge opportunity.
All right, we've got another question over here.
Amitai Dinan, I'm with KPMG Strategy. And my question is, so we have CarPlay and Android Auto, and they are currently infotainment systems, but there's a strong rise in the importance and value of software in other car systems. So looking into the future, are CarPlay and Android Auto or QNX or other operating systems, are they going to play more important roles in other systems as well? And particularly as you go into a world where there's a partial automation and you have to mediate between the infotainment system and the driver's attention being there versus being in other systems of the car, my question is infotainment a beachhead for some of these players?
Yeah, I think just comment on that. I mean, what we will see in the future when we talk about the vision of highly automated driving, where you need like high precision maps, for instance, where all the navigation part, which is part of the infotainment system now, gets on a next level of precision and on interacting with powertrain, with drivetrain, with even automated systems. So we will see a lot of conversion in this part in the next few years.
I don't think Android or iOS will drive, turn, stop the car. No, it's a clear separation.
Exactly.
Another question here.
Jin Lee from Western Digital. I have a question regarding the auto industry's vision on handling the data. As more and more cars get connected, and you have a lot of content, like video, audio, and email, Spotify, music. What is the vision that as an industry to store or handle the data? Have a BMW 535, got a hard drive in it. Are you going to pop a hard drive into every car in the future?
I don't think
My
anybody
answer is-
pops anything into their car, but I know what you
I
mean.
think
Go
it's
ahead.
going the other way. We're putting 4G LTE pipes into all of our cars. We've launched on over 30 models this year, which to a large extent mitigates the need for the onboard storage if you have a high bandwidth streaming to the car. Because there's a lot of issues when you do put storage in the car and all the ancillary things there. So I don't see us putting more storage in the car. I see us connecting the cloud or the car to where the storage is, which is in the cloud.
And your phone, if it's connected.
All right, and just to wrap up, I just want to ask one more quick question of our panel. What do you think the chances are from 0% to 100% that we'll be back here on this stage still asking, when is CarPlay going to be out? Uwe? 0%?
What do you mean
50%?
by 100 is we
100% is
don't
absolutely certain. A year from now, there are going to be people who come to this conference who drive in vehicles that have CarPlay and/or Android Auto running. What are the chances of that?
That people will run CarPlay next year?
Yeah.
I think 100%.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yes.
Say it, Nick.
All right,
Say it.
last one. So,
Oh, I'm sorry, we're out of time, Roger. No, I'm just kidding.
go ahead. We can do this. Squeeze this one in quickly.
Don't plead, Roger. That's
Elon Dunk. So Herr Winterkorn, CEO of Volkswagen, has called on the automakers to come together to take a closer look at what kind of data is being shared with Google and Apple. Vehicle and customer data. I don't think we want, Google clearly has ulterior motives in getting into our cars, advertising. Google's in a position to advise our customers, why are you buying that Tahoe? Why don't you buy a Ridgeline? Have you seen the performance on that Tahoe? It's terrible compared to the Ridgeline. In fact, why don't you come to the Google site and we'll advise you on your whole ownership experience. So how do you feel about Herr Winterkorn's call to discuss this issue and have some more control? Or maybe let me put the question in a different way. Is there a way to get the best out of Google without giving Google all of our data? How's that?
My short answer to that is yes, and I think that to some extent the amount of data that Google is requiring has been overrepresented in certain places. That we've worked together with them in terms of what information is and is not provided, what's mandatory versus what is optional. And I don't think that the data elements that are mandatory represent an overreach on the part of Google.
Yeah, we are very sensitive on data privacy. We have very high policies in the company, and we work together with the Google guys to understand which data is really needed for them. And I think the data set already reduced to the minimum what is needed. So
Right, and obviously, car companies don't sell data without any knowledge of the user or driver or owner. Of course not. We recently pledged that, as probably everybody knows. So it's pretty much a misperception. Google taking all the data from the car.
It's
No,
that
it's
it's that
not.
darn media
Google
again.
is not.
It is.
Yeah.
Right. So if you look into more detail, it's not, Android Auto is not designed that way.
All right. Well, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Neal. Good panel. Thank you, Uwe. Thank you, Nick. And thank you, Phil. Good discussion there from some of the largest players out there.